G'day ladies and gentlemen, ScottyD here from the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network, and welcome back for another installment in our For the New Guy series. G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the ATWN for our next installment in the For the New Guy series, where we take a faction, we have a look at some of their detachments and talk a bit about what the detachment has, what tools it has available, what it gives you, as well as how you can start building an army list around this detachment. Now, unfortunately, Jake is not joining us for the Tyranids. He will be back joining us when we get to the next faction after we get through the Tyranids as well. So it's just going to be me talking through the Tyranids for you guys. I've got a few things up on some screens, so don't be afraid if I'm looking at different monitors and stuff, because I'm referencing notes for you guys to give you accurate information, because I'm not a Tyranid player. I've never played Tyranids once in my life. So going in, this is kind of going to be very fresh for me. It's going to be really going in deep and learning a bit more about the codex and what they have available to them, alongside also giving you guys as solid insight as I can. Before we jump in, I want to thank everyone who has been supporting us over here on YouTube as of late, whether you've been liking our videos, commenting, subscribing, even becoming a member, or doing super chats during our tournament coverage. I want to thank all of your support over here, and we thank you so much for joining us here at the ATWN for our content, whether it's live streams or the long form content we do over here as well. So we're going to jump into the first detachment for Tyranids, and that's going to be Invasion Fleet, which is what the index detachment was for these guys. Basically, this is kind of your take-all-comers detachment for Tyranids. It gives you a lot of bonuses in terms of different areas that you can play with. You've got a lot of tools in the toolbox that can really flex Tyranids in a few different directions. And it's kind of been the staple detachment that a lot of players will take, outside of kind of a few flavorful ones that we'll get into a little bit later on. So it's really been quite a stable detachment for Tyranid players, kind of in the competitive scene, but also in general that, it's kind of that more well-rounded detachment. Now, before we jump into actually talking about the detachment, I actually want to talk about the faction rule for a second, because it's something that's a bit different. So you've got synapse. So basically, whilst the Tyranids units within 6 inches of one or more synapse models, basically what that does, whilst you're in range of it, you test battle shock tests on 3d6 rather than 2d6. And each model, when you make a melee attack, you get +1 strength. Now, the other part of that as well is that you do have the Shadows of the Warp, which is a once per game ability where you can use it during any command phase and actually cause your opponent to take a battle shock check on every single unit in their army. So that can have some really good strengths. You can use it in your opponent's turn before they score their primary missions to really deny them some points. You can do it in your turn to take some OC off objectives that you're holding, or try to take some OC off objectives you're holding, so that you can actually gain some more points during primary. So you've got that flexibility in terms of when you use it. You can use it to disable any defensive strats when you need to have a go turn. You can use it to disable any offensive strats if your opponent is setting up for a go turn the following turn. And so you can kind of use that, try and hinder them a little bit. So there's a lot of kind of flexibility that you can jump into on that front with these guys. So let's jump into the detachment rule for Invasion Fleet. So you've got the hyper adaptations. Now, what these are is the start of the first battle round, you get to select one of the following abilities that actually affect all Tyranid units in your army for the entire game. So you either get Swarm Instincts, where attacks against infantry and swarm units have sustained hits 1. Hyper Aggression, attacks against monsters or vehicles gain lethal hits. And Hive Predators, attacks against characters gain precision. So really, it's quite interesting that it is at the start of the first battle round. So you're able to know where stuff is deployed, of where your opponent's deployed, or you're able to actually see what their list looks like. If they've got a lot of infantry and a couple of transports, or maybe they're a heavily mechanized list, or maybe they run a lot of characters within units, say for example Necrons, you can go, okay, cool, I want to precision out these characters so they stop getting their buffs on the unit. I'm going to take precision when I'm targeting character units. Or I've got a lot of monsters and vehicles that I'm fighting. Maybe you're fighting against another hive fleet of Tyranids. Maybe you're playing against Imperial Guard, and it's got a lot of vehicles. And so the lethal hits is going to be really helpful there. Or maybe you're just running against a lot of infantry. Maybe you're playing up against orcs, or, something that just runs buckets of infantry. Foot guard at the moment, for example. So sustained hits 1 can enable you to get a lot more damage into them as well. It's quite a flexible detachment rule, which is really nice. And so, you know, it's stayed the same the majority of the edition as well. Next up, we come to the enhancements. Now, the detachment's got 4 different enhancements. The first one is Alien Cunning. After both players have deployed, select up to 3 Tyranid units and redeploy them, or you can put them into strategic reserves. You also get to ignore how many units are already in strategic reserves if you place them in there. So really good to kind of redeploy certain units once you know where your opponent is. Obviously, you've got to take in mind that this is before the roll for first turn. So you've got to make sure when you do that redeployment that you're quite strategic in where you place items when you're using this enhancement. But it can be good if you want to ensure that you're not necessarily screwing up your deployments, for example. Next up is Perfectly Adapted. Now, once per turn, you get to reroll one of either to hit, to wound, damage, advance, charge, or saving throw for the bearer. So it really means that you get that reroll once per turn, which is player turn. So you can use that on a save during your opponent's turn. Or if you're wanting to reroll damage, you can do that as well. Or if you want to reroll charge, obviously the reroll, I believe, applies to both of the dice for the charge roll. So that's something to bear in mind there as well. So it's pretty niche, but if you're using a character that really wants to be delivering something like D6 damage reliably, you've got this available. Or if you're wanting to, you know, advance or maybe secure charge rolls, or make sure this guy stays alive with a 4-up invo, for example, then this guy, this enhancement's usually pretty good. Next up, you've got Synaptic Linchpin, and friendly Tyranid units within 9 inches of the bearer are within synapse range. So this extends your synapse range by another 3 inches. I think this is a really solid enhancement because it means it gives you that battle shock and that +1 strength aura to be a bit wider. Think like a Hive Tyrant, something on like a 6 to 80 millimeter base. And so 6 inches from that, you know, maybe you get to 14, 15 inches. But with 9 inches, you actually get like a 20-inch diameter on that circle, which is actually really strong. And I think it's quite a solid enhancement, and we see it taken quite often. And then the last one is Adaptive Biology, where the bearer gains a 5-up Feel No Pain, and once it's actually below the starting number of wounds at the start of any turn. Now, bear in mind, it is any turn. So it can be your opponent's turn or it could be your turn, but it doesn't come into play until the start of the turn. It gains a 4-up Feel No Pain until the end of the game instead, which is really good. So if you have a way that, you know, you could maybe cop some damage on a character that's relatively tough, it's got a large number of wounds, it's like, cool, this guy's now going to be sticking around because Adaptive Biology, 4-up Feel No Pain is just really nice, particularly if you've already got a 4-up Invulnerable Save. The 4-up Feel No Pain is basically going to allow you to reduce a lot of incoming damage after like multiple damage rolls occur, whether that is just a flat 3 damage or 2 damage or 4 damage, or maybe it's a D6 +1 damage weapon where they roll up, say, a 5 on the dice. So, you know, instead of taking straight, you know, 4 wounds after the 5-up, you end up more than likely taking 3 because of the 4-up Feel No Pain based on statistics. So I really like all of these enhancements. They're quite solid in that sense that they give you different tools that you're able to utilize when you are playing your games, I should say. So, you know, quite interesting. Use them as you see fit. Of course, you can only take 3 enhancements per list. I think if you were to pick any 3 that you're wanting to play with, I definitely think Synaptic Linchpin and Adaptive Biology are pretty good takes. Then it's kind of down to what you want to preference, whether you want Alien Cunning a bit more or Perfectly Adapted a bit more. Just depends on what you want to do and flavor that to taste. So yeah, that's the enhancement. So now we're going to jump into talking a bit about their stratagems, the 6 stratagems that they have available. The first one is Rapid Regeneration. It's 1 CP. Now, during your opponent's shooting or the fight phase, on the strat, it does say the fight phase. After an enemy unit has selected its targets, a Tyranid unit that was selected gains Feel No Pain 6-up until the end of the phase. If it's within synapse range, it gets Feel No Pain 5-up instead. So this is really good to protect maybe your squishier units that are within that synapse range to go, cool, 5-up Feel No Pain. So, you know, you guys are going to survive against combat, or you might want to pick a unit that's more than likely you want to survive and you want it to deal damage back. Maybe it doesn't have the adaptive biology enhancement on like a Hive Tyrant or something, so this could be a really good use there as well. So Feel No Pain 5+ can be quite solid when you need it, so I like it. Next up, we've got Adrenal Surge for 2 CP. So this is a bit of a pricier one. During the fight phase, you select one Tyranid unit that is eligible to fight, or up to 2 that are within synapse range that are eligible to fight. So you've got a little bit of flexibility there. You can get some good use out of this if you, when we talk about it a couple of units a bit later when we get to the list for this detachment, you can actually probably reduce this down to 1 CP and then pick 2 units. You get a lot of value out of it. But still being able to pick 2 units for 2 CP is quite a good expenditure of command points, I would say. And so, because they're eligible to fight until the end of the phase, you critical hit on 5s. Now, this really works quite well with the Detachment Rule. So it allows you to get sustained hits 1 on 5s. It allows you to get lethal hits on 5s in the fight phase, which is really strong, particularly if you're going and sending not necessarily the strongest close combat unit you've got into a vehicle and you're wanting to get a lot of lethal hits against them. This will really help you to be able to do that. But bear in mind it is 2 CP, so it is quite an expensive stratagem. Next up, we come to Death Frenzy. 1 CP, during the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. Select a Tyranid unit that was selected as the target. Until the end of the phase, when a model in that unit is destroyed, if it has not already fought that phase, you roll the dice, and on a 4+, you don't remove it from play. After the attacking unit has finished making its attacks, any destroyed models get to make their attacks before being removed. So basically, it's a 1 CP fight on death is what we call this, a 4-up fight on death. So it means that if you're going into something and you know, okay, cool, I'm not fighting first here, but I still want my guys to have a chance at hitting you as they die, you spend the 1 CP for that. It's really quite good on stuff that maybe is multi-wounds, such as Raveners or even Tyranid Warriors with melee weapons, so that you still get the value out of that big unit. You know, they can be quite expensive, and so to commit that size of unit into that combat and then turn out that, okay, they've got the CP to interrupt and they interrupt into that combat, you can then go, well, I'm going to Death Frenzy. So you will then get to fight on death, and then the remaining models will get to fight when it comes back around to your turn to fight. So it's really strong. Of course, it's a 4-up. It's not a guaranteed fight on death, so that's something to bear in mind, but still really, really solid. Next up, we've got Overrun for 1 CP. During the fight phase, just before a Tyranid unit makes a consolidation move, until the end of the phase, it can move an additional 3 inches when making a consolidation move, as long as it ends that move within engagement range of an enemy unit. If the selected unit is within synapse range and not within engagement range, it can make a normal move up to 6 inches instead of that consolidation move. So the important thing here is that consolidation move goes to 6 inches and you have to end within engagement range. But if you are within synapse range, you just get a 6-inch normal move. What this means is a normal move cannot actually end within engagement range. So you can make that move instead of the consolidation move. So that is one thing to bear in mind, at least from the way I'm reading it. I could be wrong, Tyranid players out there. If I am incorrect on this, please correct me in the comments below. As with any of this, let me know down in the comments. I want to make sure that I'm getting this stuff correct. And so any comments from you guys is always greatly appreciated for you Tyranid veterans out there. But yeah, it really means that being able to make that normal move up to 6 inches means you're not forced into going into combat against an enemy unit, but at the same time, you could also use that to surge into another unit that maybe doesn't do well in combat. You're not at risk of losing a lot of models against it, and then they're tied up. They have to fall back in their turn, or they're stuck in combat because they mightn't have anywhere to go, really. If you're able to surround them, then it's like, okay, cool. I get to swing on you in your turn and go from there. So that's really something to bear in mind. It's quite a good stratagem. It's got a fair bit of utility there. Just bear in mind when you go to use it. Then we got the last 2 stratagems. First up here is Predatory Imperative. So it's 1 CP. You use it during your command phase. You select a Tyranid unit from your army, or you can select up to 2 that are within synapse range. And you select one of the hyper adaptations for the detachment. So that is sustained hits 1 against infantry and swarm, lethal hits against monsters or vehicles, or precision against characters. Now, that becomes active for the selected units until your next command phase, and you cannot select the same one that you've already selected at the start of the first battle round. So what this means is that there's no replacement here. It means it does give you both benefits depending on the target you're going into. So if you want to flex a little bit more towards, say, you're facing a lot of vehicles, but you still have infantry you need to deal with. You go, cool, I'm going lethal hits army-wide, but then I'm going to use this on units that are going to go and target the infantry. And so you get that sustained hits 1 against those. Again, that's how I believe it works, because other things in various other armies do work in the same way and they replace it, whereas this one is in addition, as far as I understand it. So that is something to be aware of as well. But it's a really good strat, 1 CP. It's good to be able to flex around what you're wanting to do in this detachment. Then the last one is Endless Swarm. It's 1 CP. During your command phase, select an Endless Multitude unit, or up to 2 Endless Multitude units that are within Synapse range. You can return D3 plus 3 destroyed models to each selected unit. So this is good to be able to bring models back into a unit. You know, you get between 4 and 6 models back, and Endless Multitudes are generally your battle line units, so stuff like Termagants, Hormagaunts, that do have this keyword. There's a few other units around that do have it as well. But, you know, you want to keep the number in that unit so they're going to be more effective with their attacks when you get into close combat for Hormagaunts, and where you do some shooting for Termagants, for example. So that's something to bear in mind with the stratagems. So overall, really good flexibility in these stratagems. A lot of different ways you can flex them when you are running your list. But I really think it's a good suite for this flexible style detachment. Now, we're going to come to the Invasion Fleet army list, and I will let you guys know, I'm going to be referencing another screen where I've actually got the unit abilities and such ready to go, so I can pull those up for you guys so we can actually talk about what this list does, why it works well in my opinion and such as well. So first up, we've got Hive Tyrant. He's your warlord, and he has got the Synaptic Linchpin, so he's got that additional aura of Synapse. Now, this guy, because of that Synapse range, can really, as we were saying, extend it out to about 20 inches in diameter. The good thing about this guy is that Tyranid units within 6 inches of him, their ranged weapons get assault and lethal hits, which is really nice. So advance and shoot, and lethal hits straight off the rip for him. So even if you don't flex into lethal hits for your detachment, you can put some shooting units around him and they get lethal hits whilst within 6 inches of it. He's got a 4-up invo, which is really good. He's got a stratagem reduction. Once per battle round, he can reduce a stratagem by 1 CP, which is really nice. That's what I was kind of referring to with one of the stratagems that was 2 CP earlier. You could use him to reduce it down to 1 CP, which is really nice. So yeah, he's quite solid. Obviously, you know, when you're using that Will of the Hive Mind ability for that stratagem reduction, you do also have to target a friendly Tyranid unit within 12 inches of that. So you've got to bear that in mind when you are using that stratagem. More than likely, you want that unit to be within Synapse range of the Hive Tyrant to benefit from it. That is the Hive Tyrant in this list. Next up, we've got the Neuro Tyrant. Now, what this guy does is that he's basically a floating tyrant. He's basically a kind of like a floating brain. Basically replaced what the Neurothrope used to be. What this guy has is, whilst he's leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. If it targets a battle shocked unit, you get +1 to wound as well. Unfortunately, in this list, he's not joining any units, so you don't get that benefit. He does have the Psychic Terror psychic ability, so if 1 or more Neuro Tyrants from your army are on the battlefield, when you unleash Shadows of the Warp, subtract 1 from the battle shock check of every enemy unit on the battlefield. So he's really good and interacts well with the Shadows of the Warp battle shock for your opponent. In the command phase, he's able to select 2 Tyranid units within 18 inches, obviously from his army. And until the start of the next command phase, they actually count as being always within Synapse range, even if they aren't within Synapse range of another unit, which is really good for some of those stratagems. So you can kind of Synapse them, send them off, go do a thing, you can still buff them. He's got a 4-up invo, and then we've also given him adaptive biology. So he's got that 5-up Feel No Pain, which is really good. Obviously, he's got a 4-up save, 4-up invo with a 5-up Feel No Pain base. Once he takes a wound, the following turn he goes down to a 4-up Feel No Pain. So he can be really, really solid, which is quite nice. So yeah, if you are wanting to attach this guy to a unit, he can join either Neurogaunts, Tyrant Guard, or Zoanthropes. Most of the time, people take him with Zoanthropes, is where he's typically taken. Then when we come to your battle line units for this attachment, we've got 2 units of 10 Hormagaunts and a single unit of 10 Termagaunts. Now, Hormagaunts, these guys get to advance and charge, which is really handy, particularly when you're wanting to bound from terrain feature to terrain feature, keep these guys safe, out of line of sight so they don't really get shot up because they've only got a 5-up save. Really quite weak, but they are pretty decent in combat. Strength 3 -1 AP and 1 damage with 3 attacks hitting on 4s. It's not terrible, but buffing them with like sustained hits or lethal hits is really good, in my opinion, with these guys. And then you got 10 Termagaunts, and these guys basically have a reactive move during your opponent's turn. Basically, if an enemy unit moves within 9 inches of them when they make a normal advance or fallback move, your Termagaunts get to make a reactive move of D6 inches of a normal move. So they can kind of move around when you want them to. They do have a wide variety of range weapons as well that you can pick from for them. So it's up to you how you kit them out. We haven't set war gear for any of these characters outside of ones that kind of have set equipment. All right, next up, we're going to come into probably one of the core units you will always see in Tyranids, and that's a Biovore. Basically, the reason why a Biovore is taken is that it actually gets to, once per turn during your shooting phase, instead of shooting, it can spawn a Spore Mine. Now, this can be used to do secondaries, not do action-based secondaries, but do like, I've got a unit in a table quarter secondaries, or my opponent's deployment zone, for example, for behind enemy lines. But also, you know, you can use it to move block, which is really good because you can't advance when you are within a certain range of the Spore Mine. And if you get too close to it, it actually blows up and does some mortal wounds to the enemy unit, which is really important. It does have to be shot to be removed, but it's pretty weak, so it just takes some shooting allocation for your opponent to actually do that. But it's really solid if you do want to shoot it. It's got blast, devastating wounds, heavy and indirect fire, so it's hitting on 4s with D3 shots at strength 6 -1, 2 damage, which is pretty nice at 14-inch range. So that's something to bear in mind as well. It's pretty tough at T6, 3-up save, and 5 wounds, so it's usually pretty good to camp on your backfield objective and just lob Spore Mines at people, or just move block with Spore Mines, things like that. Next up, we come to the Exocrine. Now, this thing is your main shooting platform in the list, because he puts out D6 +3 shots at strength 9 -3, 3 damage with blast and heavy. So he can get additional shots. He can also get +1 a hit if he stands still, and he already hits on 3s. So he can be really strong. He's not the greatest in combat. He's definitely more of a shooting beast, but he is 2 damage in combat, no AP. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, when it is the shooting phase, after this model is shot, select an enemy unit that was hit by one or more of the attacks. Until the end of the phase, each friendly Tyranid model that targets that unit gets reroll hit rolls of 1. So it can be a really good synergy piece, particularly with your Biovore, if you're needing some extra damage just to finish off a unit, or it can be good for like your Termagaunts to ensure that they might hit a little bit better as well. But typically, when you're shooting the Exocrine, you kind of want it to delete what you're targeting, is kind of the idea. It's pretty tough as well, toughness 10, 3-up save with 14 wounds. Really quite tough and durable, so he's really good to kind of advance up, occupy a fire lane, and just control that from that point forward. Next up, we have got a Lictor. Now, the Lictor is kind of it's a lone op character, which is really solid, you know, like a combi weapon lieutenant in Space Marines, but he's a bit better in my opinion. So he's got fights first. When he goes into combat, he always fights first. He infiltrates, which means you can deploy him outside your deployment zone, but 9 inches away from any other enemy units or your opponent's deployment zone. He's lone operative, which means you have to be within inside 12 inches to shoot at him. And he's got stealth. Even if you are within that 12-inch range, you're at -1 to hit against him, which is really solid. Now, he does also have precision on his melee attacks, which he's got 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 7, -2, 2 damage. So he can do a lot of damage, which is really nice. Then we've got the Neurolictor, which is very similar to this guy. He does have the Infiltrator's lone operative, stealth, and synapse ability for this guy as well. But each time you kill a character with this guy, you gain 1 CP, which is really nice. And in your command phase, he's got the Neuro Disruption ability that allows you to target an enemy unit within 12 inches. They have to take a battle shock check. And they've got a Psychological Saboteur aura. So whilst enemy units are within 12 of him, if that unit is battle shocked, each time they attack, the enemy units at -1 to hit. And friendly Tyranids get +1 to wound against that unit as well. So really, really strong. He's also got a 4-up invulnerable save, which is quite nice. His melee attacks aren't as good as the regular Lictor. It's only strength 6 -2 1 damage with precision. 6 attacks hitting on 2, so he can put out some attacks, but at the same time, sniping out characters is kind of what this guy wants to do as well. And then last but not least, we've got the Screamer Killer, Carnifex. This guy's T9, 2-up save with 10 wounds. He puts out a lot of attacks. He's 10 attacks hitting on 3s at strength 10 -2 flat 3 damage in melee. And then he does have a Plasma Scream, which is Assault and Blast, so he can advance and shoot it at strength 8 -2 1 damage for D6 +3 shots at 18 inches. So it can do some stuff, do some chip damage, which is quite nice. He does have Death Scream as well, so in your shooting phase after this model is shot, you can select a unit that was hit by one of the more of those attacks. They have to take a Battle Shock check at -1. So there's a lot of Battle Shock synergy and a lot of Battle Shock things going on with Tyranids, which is really good. This guy isn't a Synapse creature, but he is affected by Synapse. He does have, Deadly Demise 1, so he only does 1 mortal wound if he Deadly Demises instead of D3. So yeah, quite strong. Of course, he can be affected by Synapse and such as well. So I just wanted to double check, and I took a bit of a second as I was recording to have a look. So the Neurolictor is a Synapse creature, the regular Lictor is not. So I had that around the other way. So it's really good that the Neurolictor is able to give you that boost in Synapse range, whereas the regular Lictor doesn't. It's just affected by Synapse. So this list comes to 1,000 points currently in the most recent points. So that's something to bear in mind when we do these videos. The points on this might fluctuate a little, but it's going to be roughly 1,000 points when it comes to it. So I think this is a good, well-rounded list. To get started, it gives you some of the smaller stuff. It gives you some of the bigger stuff. It also gives you some niche pieces like the Lictors and the Biovores that you can kind of do some stuff with. Then when we come to looking at the cost of this list, Tyranids are going to be a little bit of an expensive army, ladies and gentlemen. Compared to Marines, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, but we'll see how we go with some of the different detachments and what we can do. Of course, some of these are going to be combo kits as well. As per usual, we also have got the first price, not in brackets, that is from Games Workshop directly. The price in brackets is kind of the cheapest online, or maybe your local store might be able to get them in. Typically, this is around 5 to 10% discount in the brackets at minimum, all the way up to maybe 20-21%. So, the first box is the Neurotyrant and Screamer Killer box. This is a standalone box, $185 on its own, or it's $176 from direct. You could find it maybe a little bit cheaper if you get it from your local store and they've got, say, 10% off all GW stuff. It's something to bear in mind. Next up, we've got the regular Hive Tyrant kit. It's 101 Australian direct from GW, or $80 from, say, an online retailer doing 21% off. 2 boxes of 10 Hormagaunts. These are the new sculpts, sitting at $86 times 2 of that, or $68 from an online retailer, for example, times 2 for those. You're then going to want to grab a box of 10 Termagaunts, which also comes with 1 Ripper Swarm, $77 direct from GW, or $61 from an online retailer. Biovore is $86 or $68 from your online retailer. An Exocrine is $115, so quite an expensive big bug. But you could get it for $110, maybe a little bit cheaper from, an online retailer or your local store if they do 10% off. Then you've got your Lictor, which is $86 for a lone character. Quite expensive, but it's well worth the purchase. $86 direct from GW, or $68 from an online retailer. And then the Neurolictor is $74, so a little bit cheaper than the regular Lictor, or $59 from an online retailer. So in total, it comes to $819 if you buy this list directly from GW, or it can come down to about $758, maybe a little bit cheaper if you use like secondhand marketplace to pick up minis, or you go to your local store to pick up the more direct items you get a better discount from than an online retailer, and you pick up the cheaper box sets elsewhere online and such to make sure you get the best discount. So yeah, it's a bit more expensive than what the Marines were, but at the same time, you're getting a larger amount of models, I would say. You're getting some bigger stuff, some big monsters, but also you're getting a lot of little gribblies and stuff, some utility units and such as well that really set you up well for a good starting Tyranid collection, in my opinion. So overall, Invasion Fleet, I think, is a really good detachment. I think it's really flexible. It allows you to do a lot of things with Tyranids, and you can flex into things that you might be like, okay, I can kind of be a jack of all trades detachment with this. I might take a unit of Zoanthropes later with that Neurothrope, so they're able to do that great damage. I might flex into maybe grabbing some Gargoyles or another Exocrine or some of these other units that you have access to for your Tyranid list as you do build it up. I really think it's got a good foundation. I think it's got some great enhancements with a great detachment rule and some great synergy with the army focused rule of Synapse and Shadows of the War, which is really good, and that's kind of what you want to see with these Tyranid detachments. So I'm quite happy with, you know, my thoughts on Invasion Fleet. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this first For the New Guy installment for Tyranids. We do have several of these coming at you soon. Hope you did enjoy the information. Again, if there was anything that I maybe got incorrect, of course, as I said at the start, I'm not a Tyranid player. So I'm looking at this trying to help and educate people who are wanting to start Tyranids as best as possible. So Tyranid veterans out there, if I do get anything wrong, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you did enjoy this video, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to hit it with a like. And if you want to catch more content from us here at the ATWN, whether it's in the For the New Guy series or whether it's our tournament coverage, tournament previews from Spirited Tabletop, all the other content that we create, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified as to when we are releasing more content over here on YouTube. We also do regular hobbying sessions and our tournament preview streams over on our Twitch channel, so make sure to head over to Twitch and search up the Australis TWN channel. You'll be able to find us there doing hobbying sessions most weeks, as well as tournament previews ahead of tournament coverage on the weekend. And also want to give a shout out to everyone who does financially support us, whether it's over on Twitch, whether it's here on YouTube, or through our independent platform of Ko-Fi. Really appreciate all of the financial support you guys provide us as well, because it helps us cover our costs as a business, as well as then reinvest what we can into increasing our gear quality and allow us to provide better tournament coverage to the Australian Warhammer 40k tournament scene. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been ScottyD. Hope you've enjoyed this installment of the For the New Guy series, and I hope to catch you in the next one.